Good morning, guys. Marini here with another algebra video. Hope you guys had a good weekend. This lesson is for Monday, April 20th, called Factors and Roots. Today we're going to look at the relationship between factors and roots. This lesson is in the quadratics folder. To go down to lesson number 8. I'm going to start here with the do now. The do now question number 1 says to factor x squared minus x minus 6. So remember, there's greatest common factor, there's dots, there's AM. This would be factorable with the AM method because it's a trinomial. So AM, and when you factor this polynomial, x squared is x times x, and numbers that multiply to -6 and add up to -1 would be a +2 and a -3. Now this question just said to factor it. It's not a quadratic equation. You don't have to do your T-chart and get the roots. However, for part B, it is a quadratic equation. It's the same polynomial, x squared minus x minus 6, but now it's an equation equals 0. So to solve a quadratic equation, you factor it, and we kind of already did that in the part A of this question. So this factors down to x plus 2 times x minus 3. But now since it's an equation, to solve this equation, you T off. And remember, you make each piece equal to 0. So x minus 2 equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. And to solve for x, you would subtract 2 on both sides. Oh, hold on. Pressing too many things here. Subtract 2 on both sides. And you get x equals -2. And here you would add 3 to both sides. And then x equals 3. Remember that these are called roots. Okay? You can write your answers in a solution set. One of the roots is -2 and the other one is 3. And remember, up here, these are called factors. Factors are what's in the parentheses, and then the roots is what you get after you T off. So again, the relationship between the factors and roots, I think it's been obvious for a while now, it's kind of the opposite. If one of the factors is x plus 2, the root becomes x equals -2. And if one of the factors is x minus 3, the root for that one becomes x equals 3. And if you look at number 2 here, this is a graph of the same equation. This graph that I have here in blue on question number 2 is the graph of this equation. You'll notice the question says, what are the roots or what are the zeros? Both of those words mean the same thing. You look at where it crosses the x-axis, and one of them is at -2, and the other one there is at +3. So the roots are at -2 and 3. So that's what the graph looks like. So we basically just took a look at x squared minus x minus 6, and we factored it. We also solved x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. And we also took a look at the graph of it, and you notice algebraically, when you get the roots, you get x equals -2 and x equals 3, and graphically, you can get the roots by looking at the x-axis. Now, what I'm going to do here in these two questions down here, and actually I'm only going to do the first one because I'm going to leave the second one blank for you guys. It says the zeros of a quadratic equation are 2 and 4. Write the equation in standard form. So if I'm already giving you the zeros, which again, zeros is just another word for roots, this is kind of backwards. Instead of me giving you a quadratic equation to solve and asking you to find the roots, and now I'm giving you the roots, and I want you to make the equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to start down here at the bottom, and we're going to say, all right, I already know what the answers are. The roots are 2 and 4. So 2, 4 are the solutions, or the roots. To make the equation, I want to make that quadratic equation, I need to kind of work backwards. So how would I have gotten the roots of 2 and 4? Well, those roots came out of factors. So I'm going to make a T-chart here, And if I already know that one of the roots was x equals 2 and the other root was x equals 4, then what would have been in the parentheses? What would have been the factor? So what factor would have made x equals positive 2? We'll just think of the opposite. That would have been x minus 2, and x equals positive 4. In the parentheses would have been x minus 4. Now it says we're making a quadratic equation, so don't forget to set that equal to 0. We want to make it in standard form, though. So we want to make sure it says like x squared plus something minus something equals 0. So how can I take x minus 2 times x minus 4 and make it into a quadratic equation? Well, you can simplify this. You can actually multiply that back together by using the box method. If you use the box method and do x minus 2 times x minus 4, then, all right, sorry for the delay. If you do the box method and multiply this back together, you would be getting x times x, which is x squared, x times negative 4, which is negative 4x. All right, so that's that times that times that. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8 equals 0. And then you can simplify. You can combine like terms. Negative 4x and negative 2x, you can combine those. So your final equation would be x squared. Negative 4x minus 2x is negative 6x plus 8 equals 0. And this is the quadratic equation in standard form. So I'm going to leave that second one there for you guys to try it. Same process, work backwards. All right, other types of questions is like number 3. From the graph, come up with the equations. That's kind of weird. I just gave you a graph and I want you to write the equation of the graph. Well, one thing I noticed is this is a quadratic equation because it looks like a U. It's a parabola. And I can kind of do the same thing that I did in the previous example, although this one doesn't specifically tell you what the roots are. But you can find the roots by looking at where it crosses the x-axis. It crosses the x-axis in 2 different spots. One's here and one's there. So the roots are x equals negative 1 and x equals positive 1. All right, you can also write the roots like this, negative 1 and 1. That's not what the question is asking. The question wants to know what's the equation. So again, I have here the roots are x equals negative 1, and the other root is x equals positive 1. And we're going to do this in the reverse order. That would make the factors, if x equals negative 1, this one would say x plus 1, and this one would say x minus 1. And now we're going to multiply that back together. So I'll use the box method and get x plus 1 times x minus 1. X times x is x squared. X times 1 is x. Negative 1 times x is negative x. And negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. So this now becomes x squared plus x minus 1 equals 0. And don't forget to combine like terms. I see a positive x and a negative x, which actually, when you combine x minus x, that becomes 0. It cancels out. So what you're just left with is x squared minus 1 equals 0. And a cool thing you could do is you can actually graph the equation x squared minus 1, and you'll notice that the picture in GeoGebra looks exactly like the graph here. So the only other things I want to show you here is question number 5 and question number 6, which is the correct equation for the graph. These are multiple choice questions, and one of the easiest ways to do this, and the only way that I think you should do it, is just graph it in GeoGebra. Graph each of these answers in GeoGebra and see which one looks like the picture. However, be smart about it. This doesn't look like a U, it looks like an upside down U. So the only way that it would be upside down like that is if it starts with a negative x squared. So I'm not going to bother doing 1 or 3. You'll just have to type in 2 or 4 and see which one looks like that. So let me split screen with GeoGebra here and show you guys what I'm talking about. Let's start with choice 2. Choice 2 says negative x squared plus 2x plus 3. All right, so this graph looks like that, and that actually doesn't look like the picture I have in OneNote. So now let's fix this and try choice 4 and see if that one looks better. Negative x squared minus 2x plus 3. Hit enter. Yep, that's the one. So that makes this answer choice 4. I don't think you need to see me do that another time, so I'll leave number 6 blank for you guys to try. But I do want to show you guys number 7, and then I'll stop. A polynomial function contains the factors x plus 4, and x minus 4. Which graph or graphs below could represent the graph of this function? Now, don't go right to looking for the roots, because this problem doesn't tell you what the roots are. It just tells you that x plus 4, and x minus 4 are the factors. Now, you can't look at a graph and find out what the factors are, but you can look at a graph and find out what the roots are. So the roots would be, if I just tee off here, this one would say x equals 0. This one would say x plus 4 equals 0. And this one would say x minus 4 equals 0. So one of the roots would be 0. Another one, subtract 4 on both sides, would be x equals negative 4. And this one would be positive 4 after you add 4 to both sides, x equals 4. So since they gave you the factors and didn't give you the roots, you can find the roots by quickly making a t-chart. So the roots we're looking for are 0, negative 4, and positive 4. So which of these graphs has roots or x-intercepts of 0, negative 4, and positive 4? Well, this one is negative 4, 0, and positive 4, so this one's good. This one has roots that are at negative 2, positive 2, and 0, so that one's not good. And this one has roots of negative 4, 0, positive 4. So it's 1 and 3, which makes the answer choice 3. And that's the lesson on the relationship between factors and roots. I'll post this to YouTube and send you guys a message letting you know that it's available. All right, guys, have a good one.